The first time I saw her, I thought she was trouble wrapped in a designer suit. And I was right, but not in the way I expected. It was that night, the one that started as a regrettable decision fueled by too much whiskey and too little judgment. I remember the loud music, the crowd swaying like waves, and her eyes cutting through it all with a calm, predatory grace. I didn't know her name. She didn't ask mine. And yet, somehow by the end of the night, we were sharing a taxi under neon lights, laughing at jokes I barely understood, my heart hammering against my ribs for reasons I couldn't explain. Her name was Victoria, though that night I called her many things: danger, thrill, temptation. She had a laugh that could disarm the most stubborn cynics, and a smile that hinted at secrets you'd pay too much to know. I, on the other hand, was trying to navigate life without falling into the trap of heartbreak, and somehow she slipped past my defenses like water through fingers. I convinced myself it was just a fling, a story to tell with a blush later. But something about her lingered in my thoughts longer than any ordinary encounter. And when my phone buzzed with a new email one Monday morning, I never imagined that she would appear in my life again, not in some random text, not in a social media notification, but in a way that made my stomach drop with both fear and exhilaration. Her subject line read, "Looking forward to meeting you at work." I froze. She wasn't joking. She had taken over as the new director at my company, the same company where I spent my days quietly climbing the corporate ladder, careful not to draw attention, careful not to trust anyone too much. And suddenly, the woman who had been nothing more than a thrilling memory was standing at the entrance to my office floor, exuding power, elegance, and that same electric magnetism I remembered too well. Our first meeting was awkward is an understatement. I stumbled through greetings, my carefully curated professionalism clashing with the thundering chaos in my chest. Victoria, as always, seemed entirely composed, her gaze assessing me like I was an open book. She smiled, and that smile had the power to melt walls and set alarms off at the same time. "I see you've settled in nicely," she said, voice smooth, confident, yet teasing, like she already knew the story of our one wild night together. I wanted to disappear. Instead, I nodded, trying to mimic her poise. Over the next few weeks, the office became a battlefield of emotions. Every glance she threw my way, every command in meetings carried a subtle undercurrent, a spark that reminded me of that night. It was infuriating. She had this uncanny ability to appear stern and intimidating to the world, yet the moment she caught me off guard, she would soften, her eyes lingering, her lips curling in ways that spoke of promises unspoken. I tried to maintain distance, professional distance, but that distance shrank with every passing day. And of course, gossip spread. People whispered about the intensity between us, even before anyone knew the history. I was suddenly walking on a knife edge between career ambition and forbidden desire, my mind constantly replaying flashes of skin, laughter, and that dangerous thrill I had once thought I could forget. Then came the night of the office gala. Everyone was celebrating quarterly results, champagne glasses clinking, laughter echoing through the ornate hall. I wore a dress I had hoped made me look sophisticated, not like someone lost in a dream. Victoria appeared across the room, and for a moment, the world blurred around her. The city lights through the tall windows framed her silhouette like a painting, sharp, commanding, yet intoxicatingly approachable. She approached me as if drawn by a magnet, her heels clicking against the marble floor. "You look stunning," she said softly, her voice almost lost amid the music. Yet somehow I heard every word as if it were spoken in slow motion. "Thank you," I managed to reply, my voice thinner than I wanted. My stomach did that familiar flip, and I knew then that all those weeks of pretending indifference were over. Victoria leaned slightly closer. The scent of her perfume, woodsy, strong, addictive, washed over me, and I realized that I was utterly powerless. She smiled knowingly and whispered, "We need to talk. Alone." The next hour became a blur of stolen moments behind office curtains, whispered confessions, and fingers brushing in ways that made my entire body tingle. We were two adults bound by desire, curiosity, and a history too fresh to ignore. Her lips, when they finally met mine, were like fire meeting ice, consuming, exhilarating, terrifying. And yet, amidst the heat and passion, there was a strange tenderness. For all her power and authority, Victoria was careful with me, protective, and dare I say vulnerable in moments she thought no one noticed. It was that complexity that had captivated me from the start, the thrill of a woman who could command a room yet chose, deliberately, to surrender pieces of herself to me. Over the following days, our clandestine interactions grew more daring. Notes slipped under doors, meaningful glances across meetings, and the occasional subtle touch that left me trembling. But along with excitement came fear of exposure, fear of misjudgment, fear that our night of reckless passion would somehow unravel our careers or hearts. And yet, every time I tried to pull away, every time I told myself to be rational, she appeared as if reading my mind and reminded me why I couldn't. Her smile, her voice, her presence, all of it wove around me like an invisible tether, pulling me closer, insisting that some stories, no matter how risky, were worth living. It wasn't just passion. It was connection. Something deep and rare. Something that made my pulse race and my heart ache simultaneously. I found myself laughing more, dreaming more, daring more. The office, once a cage of routine, became a playground of intrigue and desire. But then came the challenge. A major project landed on our desks, a high-stakes campaign that could make or break careers. We were forced to collaborate, to negotiate the thin line between professional respect and personal desire. Every decision, every conversation, every strategy meeting tested us, revealing vulnerabilities and igniting sparks in equal measure. It was during these tense, electric moments that I realized Victoria wasn't just a fantasy from one wild night. She was real, complicated, breathtakingly brilliant, and terrifyingly human. And I was falling harder than I had ever fallen before, into something I didn't yet understand but couldn't resist. There were arguments, of course, fierce debates over strategy, conflicting visions, and the inevitable clash of strong wills. Yet each confrontation ended with unspoken apologies, lingering touches, and the undeniable acknowledgement that neither of us could or wanted to stay apart. By the time the project concluded, our relationship had transformed. What began as a reckless fling had evolved into a delicate, passionate, and sometimes chaotic dance of two hearts learning to navigate power, desire, and mutual respect. We discovered humor in our mistakes, strength in our vulnerabilities, and love in the most unlikely of places: a corporate office, under fluorescent lights, and amidst the chaos of ambition and expectation. And as I sat at my desk one evening, watching Victoria walk past with that signature confident stride, I realized that life had a strange way of surprising you. The woman who had seemed untouchable and distant that night at the bar had become my partner, my challenge, and my home in ways I never imagined possible. Because love, real love, doesn't always come wrapped in perfect timing or safe choices. Sometimes it comes in the form of a powerful woman in a tailored suit who walks into your life when you least expect it and turns your entire world upside down. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of chaos, desire, and delicate negotiation between our hearts and our ambitions. I discovered sides of Victoria that no one else ever saw: the way she absent-mindedly twisted a strand of her hair when she was deep in thought, the faint smile that crept onto her lips when she caught me staring at her from across the room, and the softness in her eyes that belied the steel exterior everyone else knew. We were like fire and water, constantly testing each other, clashing in meetings, arguing over projects, yet somehow finding a rhythm in the tension. Every confrontation carried electricity, every disagreement a spark that reminded us of the night that had brought us together. I realized that passion wasn't just in our stolen kisses behind closed doors, it was in the way we challenged each other, the way we refused to compromise our truths, yet somehow bent enough to accommodate one another. It was during one late-night session, the office empty except for the hum of computers and the distant city lights, that our dynamic shifted in ways I hadn't anticipated. We had been debating a campaign strategy for hours, voices raised, tempers flaring, until finally Victoria slammed her hands on the desk and stared at me. "You're impossible," she said, half laughing, half serious. Her eyes softened, though, and I felt that familiar pull in my chest, the one that made rational thought disappear. "I could say the same about you," I shot back, trying to mask the rapid beat of my heart. But her presence, that intoxicating combination of authority and intimacy, made every word feel meaningless. Then, almost without warning, she leaned across the desk and kissed me. Not a gentle, hesitant kiss, but one that demanded attention, one that swept away every pretense of control I had tried to maintain. Her lips were firm, insistent, yet tender, and I surrendered to the moment completely. It became a pattern: stolen touches in corridors, Subtle glances that said everything without words, whispered conversations in the darkened office. Each encounter pushed the boundaries of professionalism, yet I couldn't bring myself to care. She had become my obsession, my thrill, and the only constant in a world that often felt unpredictable. And yet, amidst the intensity, doubt lingered. Could this work? Could we navigate a relationship while maintaining our careers, our ambitions, without collapsing under the weight of scrutiny? I asked myself these questions endlessly, especially when gossip began to circulate, subtle hints that colleagues noticed the tension between us. I felt exposed, vulnerable, terrified of what might happen if our secret became public. Victoria, however, seemed unbothered. She carried herself with the same grace and authority she always did, but in private moments, I saw the same vulnerability I felt. One evening, as we worked late on a presentation, she caught me staring at her and whispered, "Do you ever worry we're in too deep?" I swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. "Every day," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. Her hand found mine, fingers intertwining, and she gave me that soft, knowing smile. "Good," she said. "It means you care. It means it's real." That night, we left the office together, walking through the city streets under the glow of street lamps and neon signs. The world seemed smaller, quieter, as if it existed solely for us in that moment. We laughed about the absurdity of our situation, the sheer improbability that a one-night encounter could transform into this delicate, passionate dance of hearts and desires. The weeks turned into months and our bond deepened. We learned each other's rhythms, the subtle cues of emotion, the small gestures that spoke volumes. Victoria's power and confidence never diminished, but it softened in ways I found breathtaking, revealing a tenderness reserved only for me. And I, in turn, discovered strength I hadn't known I possessed: the courage to love boldly, to risk vulnerability, and to embrace the unpredictable. Work became an adventure rather than a chore. Our collaboration was electric, the office buzzing with energy as our professional and personal lives intertwined. Yet we remained cautious, knowing that a single misstep could unravel everything. We created a world of our own within the corporate structure, a private universe of secret smiles, whispered messages, and fleeting touches that no one else could decipher. Then came the first major challenge that tested not only our professional acumen, but also our trust in one another. A high-profile client had expressed dissatisfaction with our campaign, and the pressure was intense. The board demanded results, deadlines loomed, and the tension between us was palpable. Victoria approached me late one evening, her expression serious, yet there was a softness in her eyes that made my heart ache. "We need to handle this carefully," she said. "Together." Her words, simple as they were, carried immense weight. It wasn't just about the campaign. It was about us navigating a world that often seemed designed to challenge our connection. We spent hours strategizing, debating, refining every detail until the solution became clear. And in that process, I realized that our bond was not a weakness, it was a strength, a source of creativity, resilience, and passion that drove us forward. The successful launch of the campaign marked a turning point. Recognition from the board and clients alike affirmed our capabilities, yet it was the personal victories that resonated most. We had weathered the storm together, balancing ambition and desire, proving to ourselves that love and professionalism could coexist in ways both exhilarating and rewarding. Amidst the intensity, we found moments of levity. Lunch breaks became adventures, exploring hidden cafes, sharing stories of childhood dreams and fears, discovering the layers beneath the facades we presented to the world. Victoria had a way of listening that made me feel seen, truly seen, in ways I had never experienced before. And I, in turn, found joy in her laughter, comfort in her presence, and an unshakable sense of belonging. One particularly quiet evening, we found ourselves on the rooftop of the office building, city lights stretching endlessly before us. The night was calm, the air crisp, carrying the faint scent of autumn leaves. Victoria wrapped her arms around me from behind, resting her chin on my shoulder. "I never thought I'd find this," she murmured. "This. Us." I leaned into her, heart full, and whispered, "Neither did I. But I'm glad we did." The kiss that followed was not hurried, not desperate, but deliberate and tender, a testament to the journey we had shared. It spoke of trust, desire, vulnerability, and the quiet triumph of two hearts choosing each other despite the odds. As our relationship blossomed, so did our understanding of one another. Victoria revealed moments of doubt and fear, the burdens of power and expectation she carried, and I shared my insecurities, my need for reassurance, and my longing for connection. Together, we built a foundation of mutual respect, passion, and unwavering support, a partnership that transcended the fleeting thrill of a one-night encounter and evolved into something enduring and beautiful. We celebrated milestones both big and small, promotions, successful projects, quiet victories in personal growth, and countless shared moments of joy that reminded us of the fragility and brilliance of life. Through it all, we remained each other's anchor, each other's confidant, and each other's greatest thrill. Yet love, as we learned, was never without its challenges. There were moments of doubt, of jealousy, of fear that our professional ambitions might collide with our personal lives. But each challenge became an opportunity to grow, to communicate, and to reaffirm our commitment to one another. One memorable evening after a particularly grueling week, we found ourselves in a quiet corner of a cozy restaurant, city lights twinkling through the windows. Victoria reached across the table, taking my hand in hers. "I want to do this," she said softly, eyes searching mine. "All of it. You and me. No more hiding, no more pretending." Tears welled in my eyes as I nodded, overwhelmed by the depth of emotion in that simple declaration. "I want that too," I whispered. "More than anything." From that moment, our relationship entered a new phase, one of openness, honesty, and shared dreams. We navigated the complexities of work and love with renewed clarity, each challenge strengthening rather than weakening our bond. Our colleagues noticed the change too, not in whispers of scandal, but in the undeniable synergy that radiated from our partnership. Victoria and I began to dream together, weekend getaways to quiet coastal towns, late-night walks through bustling city streets, quiet mornings with coffee and shared laughter. We learned to celebrate the mundane as well as the extraordinary, finding magic in the ordinary moments that defined our lives. And though the memory of that first night remained a bittersweet reminder of chance and impulsiveness, it was no longer the defining moment. Instead, it had become the spark that ignited a love story far more profound, complex, and beautiful than either of us could have anticipated. Because in the end, it wasn't just about passion or desire. It was about trust, understanding, and the courage to embrace love in all its unpredictability. Victoria, the powerful woman I had met in one fleeting night of chaos, had become my partner, my equal, and my heart's home. And I, once cautious and wary of attachment, had discovered the transformative power of love, a love that challenged, nurtured, and ultimately completed me. The seasons changed, and with them so did the rhythm of our lives. Spring brought fresh beginnings both in the office and in our hearts. Our relationship, once a secret thrill teetering on the edge of scandal, had matured into a stable, loving partnership that neither of us could imagine living without. Victoria's presence was no longer just an intoxicating distraction, it was my anchor, my sanctuary in a world that often demanded too much and gave too little. Work too evolved. No longer did we operate in whispered secrecy. Our collaboration became a celebrated example of synergy, creativity, and mutual respect. Colleagues admired our professionalism, often unaware of the tenderness and connection underpinning every decision, every strategy, every victory. Even the office grapevine, once poised to speculate, now seemed to respect the undeniable chemistry that drove us forward. Despite the professional success, our personal lives remained the heart of our story. Weekends became sacred escapes, quiet trips to sleepy towns along the coast, mornings spent drinking coffee on the balcony of a tiny rental overlooking the ocean, evenings lost in the soft glow of candlelight and laughter. We explored the nuances of love, the joy of small gestures, the comfort of knowing we could be vulnerable without fear, and the thrill of continuing to discover each other, even after months of intimacy. One Saturday morning, Victoria suggested a spontaneous trip to a vineyard a few hours away. The sun was bright, the sky impossibly blue, and the air carried the faint scent of blooming wildflowers. She drove, her hand brushing mine on the console whenever traffic slowed, sending shivers up my spine despite the warmth of the spring sun. "You know," she said, glancing at me through the rearview mirror, "I never thought a night like ours could turn into this." I laughed softly, leaning back in my seat. "Neither did I. But I can't imagine my life without you now." Her smile softened, her eyes glimmering with a mix of amusement and affection. Good. Because I'm not going anywhere. At the vineyard we wandered between rows of grapevines, sunlight dappling the ground through swaying leaves. We sipped wine, talked about dreams, and inevitably, reminisced about that fateful night that had set everything into motion. It seems so long ago, I said, swirling the glass in my hand. Like a different person entirely. Victoria's gaze softened, and she tucked a loose strand of hair behind my ear. I was a different person. But meeting you changed that. You brought me back to life in ways I didn't know I needed. I felt my chest tighten, emotions threatening to spill over. I feel the same way, I admitted. You're everything. She stepped closer, her hands finding mine, fingers intertwining effortlessly. Then let's promise something, she said, her voice gentle but resolute. No matter what challenges come our way, work, life, or anything else, we face them together. Always. I nodded, tears prickling my eyes. Always. And in that sunlit vineyard, with the world fading into a blur of green and gold, we kissed, not hurriedly, not desperately, but with a calm certainty, the kind of kiss that spoke of enduring love and unshakable trust. It was a kiss that said, we've fought, we've struggled, and we've won together. Life didn't suddenly become perfect, of course. There were still stressful days at work, moments of doubt, and challenges to navigate. But the difference now was resilience. We had each other, a foundation of trust and love that no external pressures could shake. Every argument ended with understanding, every misunderstanding with laughter, every fear with reassurance. One particularly memorable evening, we hosted a small gathering at Victoria's apartment, just a few close friends. The city lights shimmered through floor-to-ceiling windows, and the atmosphere was warm, intimate, and filled with the sound of laughter. Watching her interact with our friends, the way her eyes lit up when she told stories, the gentle way she touched my hand when no one was looking, I felt a deep, overwhelming gratitude. This was not just passion or infatuation, it was partnership, companionship, and a love that had grown, matured, and solidified over time. After our friends left, we lingered on the balcony, wrapped in blankets against the chill of the night air. The city sprawled below us, alive with lights, noises, and endless possibilities. I never thought I'd be this happy, I admitted, leaning into her embrace. Victoria's lips brushed the top of my head. Me neither. But I knew from the moment we met, even that reckless, chaotic night, that there was something extraordinary between us. Something worth fighting for. Her words lingered, echoing the countless challenges we had faced together, the stolen moments of intimacy amidst the demands of work, and the tender love that had grown from a fleeting encounter into a life-changing bond. Weeks later, a particularly quiet Sunday afternoon, Victoria surprised me. She had been unusually secretive all morning, insisting we take a walk downtown without explaining why. Curiosity buzzed through me as we wandered past familiar streets, hand in hand, until we arrived at a small, beautifully decorated art gallery I had never noticed before. Inside, soft music played, and the gallery was bathed in warm, inviting light. She led me to the center, where a single piece stood framed on an easel, a painting of two women standing amidst a cityscape at night, hands intertwined, eyes locked, the scene exuding intimacy, strength, and love. I had this commissioned, she said softly, her fingers brushing mine. It's us. Not just the beginning, but everything we've become together. My breath caught, tears welling in my eyes. It's beautiful, I whispered, voice trembling. Victoria. She stepped closer, holding my hands in hers. And I have one more thing, she said, dropping to one knee. My heart stopped. I want to continue this journey with you. Every day, every challenge, every joy. Will you marry me? Time seemed to freeze. I felt a tidal wave of emotions: love, surprise, joy, relief, and overwhelming gratitude. The woman who had been my passion, my challenge, my anchor, was now asking to make our bond eternal. Yes, I breathed, tears streaming down my cheeks. 1,000 times yes. She stood, slipping the ring onto my finger, and we embraced, laughing, crying, and savoring the moment. Outside, the city hummed on, oblivious to the love story unfolding within those walls. But for us, everything had changed. The chaos of that first night, the tension and thrill of clandestine encounters, the trials of navigating love and war kit all led to this. To certainty. to home. In the months that followed, we planned a small, intimate wedding, inviting only close friends and family. The ceremony was simple, heartfelt, and deeply personal. I remember walking down the aisle, my heart pounding, eyes fixed on Victoria, who stood waiting with that familiar, powerful yet tender gaze. "I promise to love you," she said, her voice steady, eyes glistening. "To challenge you, to support you, and to be your partner in all things." "And I promise to love you," I replied. "To trust you, to cherish you, and to face life together no matter what comes our way." We sealed our vows with a kiss, the culmination of months of passion, struggle, growth, and discovery. The world around us faded, leaving only the two of us, entwined in love, laughter, and the promise of a shared future. After the ceremony, we danced beneath strings of fairy lights, the city skyline a sparkling backdrop to our joy. We laughed at the absurdity of our journey, from a reckless night fueled by whiskey and impulse to a life built on trust, intimacy, and unwavering love. In quiet moments afterward, when the celebration ended and we found ourselves alone in the apartment we had shared dreams about, we held each other close. "I can't believe this is real," I whispered, fingers tracing the lines of her face. "It is," she said, resting her forehead against mine. "Every bit of it. And it's ours always." Life continued, of course, with its challenges and surprises, but the foundation of our love remained unshakable. We navigated careers, personal growth, and the unpredictability of life together, finding joy in the small moments: a shared cup of coffee, a laugh over an inside joke, a quiet evening on the balcony watching the city lights. And through it all, I realized that love was not just about passion or desire. It was about choosing each other every day, celebrating each other's strengths and vulnerabilities, and building a life that honored both our dreams and our hearts. Victoria, the powerful woman I had met in one wild, chaotic night, had become my partner, my confidant, and the love of my life. And I, once cautious and wary of attachment, had discovered a love so profound, so transformative, and so enduring that it had reshaped everything I thought I knew about happiness, trust, and connection. As we stood together on the balcony one evening, city lights twinkling below, hands intertwined and hearts aligned, I whispered, "We made it." Victoria smiled, a soft, radiant glow illuminating her face. "Yes," she said, "and we'll keep making it together forever." And in that moment, with the cool breeze on our skin and the warmth of love in our hearts, I knew it was true. We had found home, not in a place, but in each other. And nothing else would ever matter as long as we were together. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.